Jobs Institute. We are a nonprofit based in Boston, in the United States, and our mission is to help companies thrive by creating good jobs. So our main work is to work directly with companies in the service sector, so retail, restaurants, hospitality, and help them understand how to improve their operations so that they can offer better jobs, pay their workers more, offer more stable schedules, and really engage and motivate their frontline workers. We also create free tools and resources for any company that is interested in creating better jobs. And I'm really excited to talk to all of you today. Just a moment, figuring out how to make these slides move. Really excited to talk with you today because all of you care about and love travel, as do I. I have spent my career across the world, from the Bahamas to Uganda to Southeast Asia, and have been able to experience so many fantastic things in travel, right? And as you all know, hospitality workers make a world of difference to anybody's journey. There's the workers that you see, your concierge, your server, your flight attendant. You see them, you interact with them, you know how they're contributing to your experience. And then there's so many other hospitality workers who you may not see. The prep chef, the maid, all sorts of people contributing their hard work to creating magical travel experiences. And as all of you know, this is a really challenging time for the travel industry. So COVID is just wreaking havoc on all of our travel plans, as well as, of course, more importantly, on the health and economies of all of the countries here in the world. And especially retail, restaurant, hospitality, hotel workers are really hurting. Their livelihoods have been incredibly impacted by this. We've gotten some great news this week about a possible vaccine. We're going to get out of this pandemic, and a lot of these companies in the service and retail industry are going to have to rebuild. And I think a really important message is that even with all these heavy hits, recovery doesn't have to be about either good jobs or lots of profit. They can go hand in hand. And that's really what I wanted to talk to you about today. So companies come to us at the Good Jobs Institute, and they're often in what we call a vicious cycle. So they're experiencing operational problems. What does that look like in the service industry? For restaurants, that means they've got really high food waste. They've got slow service. They've got inconsistent dishes, right? In retail, stockouts, dirty stores, data inaccuracy. In hotels, poor customer service, cleanliness issues, right? All of you have traveled, you know when you're having a bad customer experience and bad operational problems, you're not going to go back. You're not going to, you're not going to buy that extra dessert. You're going to get out of there, right? So these companies are having operational problems. They have lower sales and profit. And when you have lower sales and profit, you got to look to cut somewhere. And for many companies with large frontline workforces, their labor budget is big, and you can cut that pretty immediately and see the monetary impact. So they invest less in people. And what they don't see and have a hard time making the connection to in this vicious cycle is that when you have low investment in people and you're cutting labor budgets, you actually drive operational problems. It's not as immediate as that nice cut to the labor budget, but your frontline workers are the ones who are doing the cleaning, doing the stocking, doing the inventory, providing great customer service. If there's high turnover, if there's high absenteeism, if there's high churn, if your managers are, clearing tables instead of communicating with your customers because somebody called out today, you're going to drive more operational problems and you end up in this vicious cycle. And it hurts your employees, it hurts managers, customers, investors. And at the root of this is the assumption that people are a cost. And we see that with a lot of companies. Some companies have broken out of this vicious cycle. So what's their secret? So my colleague wrote a book in 2014 called The Good Job Strategy. Here it is. Zeynep Ton, she's a professor at MIT's Sloan School of Management and the co-founder of the Good Jobs Institute. And she looked at these four companies, Costco, Trader Joe's, Quick Trip, and Mercadona. So if any of you are from Spain, you may know Mercadona. It's the low-cost supermarket there. Here in the US, many of you will know these three companies. All of these are low margin grocery stores, and Quick Trip is actually a convenience store gas station chain. So low margins, but all of them offer fantastic jobs, right? So Costco, the average wage at Costco is $23 an hour. For Quick Trip, they have fantastic promotion from within. We were actually in Texas and met a store manager there who was really proud to tell us he was making $100,000 a year. So you can make a great career at these companies, and their customers love them. So I don't know how many of you have been to any of these companies, Yep, I see. Someone has been to Mercadona. Mercadona is in fact the best. Customers love them, right? So just love letters. People will drive out of their way to go to Quick Trip because they've got clean bathrooms. And guess what? Their investors love them too. So Costco has outperformed the S&P 500 over the past 20 years. Quick Trip is private, as I believe is Mercadona, but they, again, they do really well. So let's dig in. What's their secret? And I will say, if you have any questions, we're gonna have plenty of time for questions at the end. So feel free to hold on to them. I'm happy to answer any of them. So what's the secret to having great jobs, great customer service, and great profits, great revenue? The companies that we talk to who are in that vicious cycle, they are often creating jobs and creating operating systems that assume high turnover, low ability, low motivation. So there's a lot of command and control. And there's not a lot of opportunities for employees to use their knowledge and their resources and their judgment to create special experiences. Companies that have broken out of that cycle, that are offering great jobs, they've designed an operating system that will drive and leverage capable and motivated people and help them be super productive and super fantastic. So they invest in people, absolutely, with higher wages, more stable schedules, better benefits, but then they need a return on that investment. So they make a set of operational choices that help their people have the tools and the resources and the time to be really fantastic. So what I'm going to spend our time on today is, what are those operational choices? What are these companies doing differently? How are they driving satisfied and loyal customers, motivated and capable employees, and happy investors with higher productivity, stronger execution, higher sales, and lower cost? And I hope this will be interesting for all of you. I think as travelers, you're going to see and hear some examples from companies like Oberoi and Four Seasons where you might have stayed. And I think it's also important if you run a business. This can be applied across a whole bunch of different industries. And I think it's just really important now, as we're looking at high unemployment and real challenges in jobs and livelihoods given COVID. You can drive great performance and offer great jobs. And I really hope that this will be a way out of some of the bigger challenges that our whole world is facing right now. So, and absolutely, Mercadona is fantastic for travelers and for employees. Employees have really stable schedules and are really tapped for their knowledge and really engaged in deep ways in Mercadona. I love Mercadona. All right, so we're going to dive in. We're going to look at the 4 operational choices that make up the good job strategy. And then we're going to look at what real investment in people looks like. I'm going to offer a couple of quick case studies and then just show you a couple of free tools we've got on our website if you're interested in going deeper. So the first operational choice that good jobs companies make is focus and simplify. So good jobs companies know why their customers come to them, and they really know what they want to be best at. They know the attributes they want to be best at. So, and then they just relentlessly simplify. They say, this is what we're going to be best at. We're going to make some hard choices, hard trade-offs, and we're going to say no to some things. So being customer first, it doesn't mean giving customers all that they want. So good jobs companies think about clarity on why their customers choose them, and they simplify. So we've got a couple of logos up here. Don't know if any of you have been to In-N-Out Burger, super cult, favorite burger joint out in the western part of the United States. They have a really small menu. They compete, sure, with McDonald's, but they don't have the McRib. They don't have chicken McNuggets. They basically have burgers and shakes. And you can get those burgers in all sorts of different configurations. And they've got a secret menu that people love to order from, but really simple. People go to them for a great burger. Costco, I don't know how many of you have been to a Costco, but they have 3,000 or 4,000 products in their big warehouses compared to 40,000, 80,000 in a traditional grocer. And you go to Costco because you're going to get great value, and you're not going to get a million choices, but you're going to get 2 or 3 great choices that have been vetted. Same as Southwest. I'm sure there's a lot of travelers on this call. Don't know how many of you have been on a Southwest flight. Southwest is a bargain carrier here in the US, and they don't have a first class. They actually don't even allow you to pick your seats. So you kind of queue right before you get on the plane. You may or may not even sit next to your family members. But they don't want to be best at luxury. They want to be best at on-time performance, really friendly, great service. And they are. So they've made a set of trade-offs where they don't go luxury. They're often in slightly less convenient airports. But man, they're going to get you there fast, cheap, and with a smile on their face. So This is really important. It's really important for companies to think about why their customers come to them and really focus and be the very best at the things that matter the most. We don't often see that. So a lot of companies are really stuck just trying to throw everything everything in the kitchen sink at their customers to make sure something sticks. So lots of activities are coming down from home office that waste time and don't add value to the customer. So again, don't know how many of you are working in large companies, but maybe marketing has one big initiative, but HR has got another initiative that's launching, and there's another promotion over here, and all of these things are happening at once, and they're all hitting the stores or the restaurants or the hotel at one time. And it's really impossible to execute well if you've got too many things coming down at you. So really, not a lot of coordination at home office, a lot of stuff being dumped on your business units. Activities that just waste time. And companies are not identifying them or prioritizing getting rid of them. Conflicting priorities, adding too many new things, too many new products, promotions, services, really stretching yourself too thin. And we see a lot of last minute changes where maybe something isn't working. And so the company will try to redo everything. And it just really confuses your frontline workers. And when you don't prioritize, when you're all over the place, when you're throwing too many things at your stores or your hotels, or your restaurants, your customers, they're not getting great service. Your employees, they don't feel like you're respecting their time or their knowledge. You can't pay them well because you're having them run all over the place and they can't be productive. And again, for your investors, you may see lower sales, you may see higher turnover, lower productivity. It's a real challenge. So the very best companies, they get out of this, right? And they say, we want to know our customer, focus on what we want to do, and then we really want to reduce workload so we can maximize the productivity, contribution, and motivation of our teams so they can really show up for our customers. So good jobs companies only do what adds value to the customer. Mercadona, they have fewer products to choose from, like Costco. They don't have promotions. Costco, they have fewer payment options. There's only like one credit card you can use. They don't actually give you bags. They give you boxes, which of course their produce and their products came in. So it's kind of a nice recycling thing for them. But again, their customers, Costco's customers, are not coming to them for glamour. They're coming for great service and really big products. So the boxes actually work out really well. Good jobs companies have fewer products and services so that their front lines can really be customer advocates, right? So at Trader Joe's, if you go in there and ask them, I'm making guacamole, what's the best chip? They can give you a PhD dissertation on what is the best chip because they've only got maybe, 7 or 8. They don't have 25 different chips like you'd find in another grocery store. So you can really understand what you've got to offer and really be able to help your customers understand it as well. The best companies, they really look to eliminate and reduce wasteful activities. So what can we just get out from our frontline workers so they can be present in front of our customers all the time? And something really important for Focus and Simplify is they're always asking the front lines, how can we help? How can we reduce workload? What are the things that super frustrate you? What frustrate the customers? Because you see the customers every day. How can we make this better? All of these things come together for your customers to really have a better understanding of your products and services and get better service. Your employees, they can really feel like their jobs are meaningful, that they're achieving something, that they're really adding to the customer experience, and you can pay them better because they're being more productive. And again, for your investors, higher productivity, higher sales, and lower cost come from really examining the work and making sure that the work you're asking your frontline workers to do adds value to the customer. Awesome. The second operational choice is standardize and empower. So all of you know in retail, hospitality, restaurants, it is incredibly important to have standards. There's so many details that go into a magical experience, and you want to make sure that your employees know the best way to do things. And at the same time, customers can come in with lots of different demands. You need to make sure that your customers are empowered so they can be ready for variability from customers and really be ready to create those special experiences that make travel and hospitality so incredible. So what does it look like to standardize and empower? First, we'll start with companies that don't do this very well. So companies that don't do this very well, they really have a set of standards out there that are meant to control, that aren't meant to empower. They have very little empowerment. And they create, big tomes of standards that nobody really understands, and they end up with inconsistent execution. So it starts with really very little understanding of the work. So leaders in companies that don't offer great jobs, they often spend too little time with the front lines. They don't know what the work looks like. They're not connected. Then they create these top-down standards and tools without any frontline involvement at all, that really waste time and decrease your ability to serve the customer. So, we had one company created they were an apparel retailer, and in their home office, they timed exactly how long it would take to unpack um, boxes of t-shirts, right? And they said this should take 35 minutes and 27 seconds. They did that in, a model store with no customers, with no interruptions, and it just wasn't accurate. But they built the labor model around that. So it made it really hard for their teams and stores of different shapes and sizes to actually execute. Way too many steps that waste employee and customer time. We worked with a pet hotel, and they had a super onerous check-in system. It took 20 minutes to check in your pet. The lines were getting long, especially at busy times like, Christmas and New Year's and Thanksgiving, when a lot of people are coming in. Your frontline workers know what doesn't make sense, and they know what takes too long. Ask them, they'll help you get that standard right. And then again, way too little empowerment. My colleague Zainab was at a Whole Foods, and she had purchased one of those $3 reusable grocery bags at her last visit, and the strap broke. She only used it once. It was $3. She brought it up to the cashier and said, "Hey, this broke. Is it possible to get another one?" And that frontline worker, that cashier, was not empowered to say yes. They had to call the manager. That took a couple of minutes. The line started to build. People started to get frustrated. It's challenging for the employee because their judgment isn't respected, and they're at the front lines of this anger from customers. Customers, not just my colleague, but many people behind her, were getting frustrated. And this is not great for investors either, right? Like, you're slowing sales, you're frustrating people, you need empowerment. So that's what we see in companies that don't have great standards. In companies that do, they make a real effort to understand the work. So Jim Sinegal is the founder of Costco. He's now retired, but he would spend 200 days a year in stores. We see him every year, and he still knows the names of the general managers, of the longtime staff. He knows their families. He knows the people, and he knows the work. I don't know how many of you have ever been to an Oberoi hotel. Feel free to raise your hand, because I will be very jealous, because I'm desperate to stay at one. But there's a great story about Vikram Oberoi carrying someone's bags up to their room. Reshma, great. Thank you for raising your hand. Would love to hear which one you went to and how fabulous it was. Anyway, so he was carrying bags, and someone was like, chatting with them, and realized he was an Oberoi, and they were like, slightly horrified that he was carrying bags. But it's really important to him that he do the work, that he understand the work, right? That there isn't a separation, which I think is really fantastic. Really good jobs companies, they have rigor in their standards and their tools, and this leads to better conformance. So, the Four Seasons, they have 7 service culture standards that everybody learns, and the standards get really specific, right? So phone calls have to be answered by the 4th ring. Guests need to be attended to within 60 seconds. There's about 800 rules that Four Seasons have. But what's really important is the great companies, they set a lot of standards, and they're really specific, and everybody knows them, and they're golden rules, but they're not static. They ask their frontline workers to help them improve them, right? And to help understand and adapt to local conditions. So for instance, Four Seasons has a standard where waiters can leave a coffee pot on the table, because, it just allows you as the customer to pour your own coffee. It allows them to provide better and, service to people at other tables. Well, their managers in France said, actually, that feels kind of offensive to our service culture, so we don't want to do that. So Four Seasons, they may have 800 standards, but they also really engage their managers and their store teams to make sure that they understand how this applies to the cultural context, to improve these standards when their frontline workers, find workarounds or ways to make them better. And that's incredibly important. So high standards, but deep engagement of your front lines to really understand how to make these really sing. Fantastic. Well, I see Victoria and Reshma have been, I think, to Oberoi, and it's a 5-star hotel experience for me, which is great. And very exciting. So we'll hear more about them throughout, because they are really fantastic. And if you are interested in some of their practices, there's a fantastic Harvard Business School case study on them that you can check out at their website. Super inspiring and definitely makes you want to stay with them. This is not, by the way, I am not paid by them, but I just am really inspired by the way that they treat their employees. And you'll see why in just a second. So that's the standards. Companies that offer great jobs, they also really want to empower their frontline workers so that they can solve customer problems, really be customer advocates, and contribute to continuous improvement. So what does great empowerment look like? So I love this. Oberoi has something called the Empower program, and it gives frontline workers the resources and the license, the empowerment to identify new ways to offer outstanding customer service. So think about it. Every single day, these workers at these hotels are meeting customers, getting new and interesting requests, and realizing where there's gaps in their service model, right? So in 2013 alone, across all of the Oberoi properties, employees found 30,000 different actions that would improve their customer service. And then they put them into a database. And then the company could sort of look at all of the different improvements that their workers were making and really identify the popular, the memorable, the ones that are consistent across all of their different properties, which one of which is featured here. And so they were able to then take all of those great ideas and great actions from their front line and create standards based on these super empowered workers who were out there. And these can be, you know, big things to little things, like you see an empty toothpaste tube in the bathroom when you're cleaning, you're empowered to go replace it with a toothpaste of the same brand. So yes, maybe they could come back in the room and call you and you can give it to them, but let's just shortcut that. Let's just put a brand new tube in their room, right? And it's really, for Vikram Oberoi quoted here, it's really about ownership, right? We want people to really enjoy working here, and that comes from instilling in them a sense of ownership. And that's what empowerment is really about. It's valuing the judgment of your frontline workers to create really special customer experiences and giving them the tools to do that. Another way that both Four Seasons and Oberoi do this is they hold daily glitch reports, glitch meetings. So reps from every department come together and they identify any glitches or problems that they had the day before. They identify root causes, and then they look to make system-wide changes so that nobody has to be impacted by that problem again. And they also make sure that they are doing outreach to that impacted guest. And I love these quotes from the founder of Four Seasons and from the current CEO of Oberoi, right? So what's important with the glitch, it's not the error, it's the recovery. So guests remember how they were treated in the outcome. So we always strive to ensure the outcomes are positive. And for employees, look, mistakes happen, right? From Vikram Oberoi. If a mistake has occurred, it's important for the concerned employees to highlight that something has gone wrong and share this with everyone in the hotel so we have time to address it. So really important. This is how they empower people, and they use that empowerment to improve their standards and improve their service. And that's really a good jobs company. The third operational choice that great companies make is cross-train. So I'm going to be really fast here. As you can imagine, in really busy service areas, you want to make sure that people have some specialization and mastery, but you also need real flexibility to deal with, you know, different traffic patterns, different needs. And it's also can really spur motivation if you've got different things to do during the day. So it's important to cross-train people to be ready to, you know, do at least several different activities, some that are customer facing and some that aren't, so that it can always be ready. And, you know, for instance, Oberoi does this. Somebody can check you in, they can carry your bags, they can get this and that for you. People are cross-trained to a whole bunch of different ways. And again, just improves flexibility and customer experience. The final operating choice that great companies make, who are able to offer these great jobs, is they operate with Slack. So most companies are, you know, they try to make an estimate of how many labor hours you're going to need this week. Who's coming to stay at the hotel? Are there any events? What's going on? How much labor do we need? But as many of you may know, any forecast, it's almost always just a little bit wrong. So in this chart right here, the forecast is 500 labor hours for the week, let's say. But when you're looking at standard deviation, it may not be 500. It might be 496. It might be 504, but it could be 600 labor hours. You could need 400. The very best companies try to make sure that they are always present for their customers. And so they operate with Slack. So what does that look like? Many companies that are in that vicious cycle, they have a tendency to overstaff and overload. And this just creates huge challenges for their employees, their customers, and for their productivity. So they don't take workload variability into account. They err on the side of too few people. And it really becomes hard for their workforce to take time off. It's hard for their managers to take a step back and to, build the business and to do smart hiring and training. It's really hard to do continuous improvement when you're just sort of running all the time. And so your customers, their problems aren't solved. They're not served really well. Your employees are really stressed out, and you end up with lower productivity and lower sales. Again, the best companies, they operate with Slack. They staff based on tasks and forecasted traffic, and they take variability into account. So they want to always make sure that someone is there at 3 a.m. if someone's checking in, right? And can really give fabulous service anytime. They staff higher than the expected workload, and this really enables people to take the time off they need, to hire well, for managers to develop people, for continuous improvement. And that, again, leads to great customer, employee, and investor outcomes. Sometimes people see operate with Slack and they get nervous because the labor budget for so many of these companies, it's big. So they think, operate with Slack, does that mean we have to spend so much more on labor? And the truth is, this is last in the operating choices for a reason. So we have already focused and simplified. We've reduced unnecessary workload. We have standardized, so we know about how long things should take, so we have a sense of what the work looks like. We've provided a lot of flexibility with empowerment and with cross-training. And so then we say, all right, now how, with our improved systems, how do we make sure we're always showing up for the customer? So those are the 4 operational choices. At the center of the Good Jobs strategy is invest in people. And so we really want to make sure that companies are meeting the basic needs of their workforce. So you've got to pay people a living wage, provide good benefits, stable schedules. All of those are super important. But also the very best companies have really rigorous hiring, training, performance management, and career pathing. And this means that they just get a fantastic group of people, they train them, and they stick around. So what does that look like? First, are people capable of doing the work? Your hiring, onboarding, training, it's all rigorous. Hiring and onboarding, the best companies, they know the key attributes that make people successful, and they hire for those. Rigorous hiring, clear understanding of the job and the schedule so everyone knows what they're getting into, and they show respect at every juncture. Training, schedule is clear, trainers are prepared, it's hands-on, and for many, the training is evaluative, and I'll talk about that in a minute. They have great performance management systems, so people remain motivated to do the work and are getting feedback and are improving every day. And then people are really supported to develop at work. The best companies promote from within almost exclusively. They want folks who see a career path with them. Because, for Costco, we want someone who's worked in the bakery to be managing the bakery at Christmas, right? When it's super crazy. And it's like that for a lot of Good Jobs companies. So just to give you a sense from the hospitality industry, what this looks like. Rigorous hiring. At Four Seasons, people go through 5 rounds of interviews. I've never gone through 5 rounds of interviews. It's really rigorous. For Oberoi, they know their hiring criteria. It's 8 characteristics summarized in an acronym called GREATEST. So guest orientation, responsible professional, English language proficiency and communication skills, achievement, motivation, technical competence, ethics, smart and smiling personality, and a team player. So they know what they're hiring for. And then they're super rigorous. They only hire 3% of their applicants. Now, you saw that Oberoi Hotel. I would love to work there. You can see how they may be able to be really selective. But this goes for many Good Jobs companies. So I mentioned Quick Trip before. They're a gas station convenience store company here in the US. The jobs are not glamorous. You're cleaning toilets, you're cleaning gas pumps. But they actually have a hiring rate of only 1% to 2%. So even more selective than Oberoi. And that's because, man, they pay well, they respect you, and they've got a real team atmosphere. Hiring and onboarding, Oberoi, they have training. Their trainers are all experts, and they're all promoted from within. And about 13% of employees are also trainers. And so they have this really great community of trainers to help new people transition in. At the Ritz, they have a 30-day training with a certified trainer, and then you're evaluated at day 30. Quick Trip also has evaluative training. It's really important to respect people's time. If this is not working out, it's best that you give people the feedback early on so that they can find a better opportunity and that you don't have folks who are not quite fit for your system. And then, supported to develop and grow within. Oberoi hires people that they think can do the job 2 positions above them because they really want to train them, get them going, and help them build a career. So all of this comes together. I hope you'll see, to show real respect for people, to set very high expectations, and to make sure that people can be productive and motivated all the time. So I wanted to give 2 quick case studies. Just checking the time. Yeah, I'll do 2 quick case studies. I talked a bit about some companies, some of whom have built good jobs into their DNA. So Costco, they were kind of born like that. Trader Joe's built into the DNA. But even if you don't have good jobs built into your DNA, you can make the switch. So 2 companies that are on a good jobs journey are Sam's Club and Mudbay, both of whom are US retailers. So Sam's Club is Walmart's warehouse brand, and they've been on a good jobs journey for about 2 years, and they have absolutely invested in people. So they've chosen some of their key roles, which include department heads, butchers, bakers, cake decorators, and they've really invested in them. They've increased wages by $5 to $7 an hour and provided more consistent and predictable schedules and increased the number of full-time workers. They've also really looked at their operations and seen ways that they can remove inefficiencies and waste and really simplify and standardize their work so everyone can be more productive. They've reduced their product variety by 25%. They've made hard choices. They've said, you know what? Our customers really don't come to us for photos. We're going to just take out our photo centers. They've simplified stocking process, standardized tire buying, and invested a lot in technology that can help their frontline workers to really help customers understand where everything is in the store and be a real advocate. And they've seen great results. So during this journey, they've seen net sales jump, strong same-store sales growth, improved membership, and they've reduced turnover by 49% in some of those targeted roles. And that's huge. That's huge for the stability of the store, for operations, and for customer service. Mudbay has done some similar things. They are a pet store chain in the Pacific Northwest. If you are visiting Seattle or Oregon, I really encourage you to go visit. The stores are beautiful. There's always dogs and cats hanging out, and they're just fantastic. So they went through a good jobs journey over the past couple of years. Again, investment in people, higher wages, a 30% wage increase for everyone over 3 years. They increased their number of employees working more than 30 hours a week, which here in the US is really important because that means you are eligible for benefits for many companies. Stronger benefits, and they also did some employee stock ownership. And then to really sort of generate the productivity there, they, again, simplified and standardized to stabilize their workload. They reduced their product variety, which also allowed them to reduce their prices. They had a lot of things they stopped doing, a lot of things they simplified. So no more faxes, no more checks, no more special orders. They simplified returns, stocking, receiving. They smoothed workload to save time, and they actually reduced the hours of their store. They found people really weren't coming in late at night on a Saturday for dog food, and they've seen fantastic results. So employee turnover has decreased by 35%. Their sales per square foot is going up. Their labor hours are going. Their sales per labor hour are going up. All sorts of great productivity and financial performance metrics. But I think the thing that they love the most is that they're getting love letters from their customers about how great they are. So they've got a Yelp rating in most of their stores of 4.5 to 5. You guys know Yelp. It's hard to be that good, and they are that good. And that's because their employers are that good. And that's because they're investing in them and investing in operational systems that really help leverage their talent. So just about done. I wanted to offer a couple of tools that we have on our website that are free if you want to check them out. This might help you understand what good jobs looks like. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, certainly you can use these to bring good jobs to your company. So the first one is probably my favorite, and this is our good jobs calculator. So it can be really easy to calculate how much it costs to offer better jobs, right? If you have 100 employees and you want to raise wages by $3 an hour, it's really easy to make those calculations. And for larger companies, that can be hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars a year to raise wages. That said, it's much harder to understand when you're in that vicious cycle, all of the many, many costs to having bad jobs, right? So you've got high shrink, you've got high turnover, you've got poor customer service, you've got people leaving. But all of those costs are in different different P&L lines. They're in different people's budgets. You can't necessarily attribute them 100% to bad jobs. So the status quo is super expensive, but you can't see it. So we wanted to create a financial model that would help companies say, what if we offered better jobs? What if we had lower churn? What kind of size of prize increase could we see in our revenue uplift, in cost mitigation? What could we do? So this tool allows you to put in all of your own information about your company, and then sort of toggle around with, what if we could increase our ticket size, I don't know, 10%, 20% through better service? What if we could increase our volume by 10, 20, 30% with better service? What if we could take our employee turnover from 150%, which we see a lot in retail, really high, to 80%? What would we save? What could we save in overtime pay and inventory shrink? And it allows you to take all of these what ifs and apply it. And the output is a total estimated revenue uplift, and basically also sort of looks at how this could translate to higher wages. So it's kind of exciting. You can see, actually, if we really can make these improvements, we can afford to pay people more. I love this tool. Check it out. We also have a good job scorecard with a whole bunch of metrics that will help you think about what it means to offer a good job, based on our definition of a good job, which looks at both basic needs and higher needs, which I've mentioned a few of these along the way, but pay and benefits, schedules, career path, safety and security, to higher needs that are really important. So belonging, achievement, recognition, meaningfulness, personal growth. All this is on our website. Feel free to check it out. We've got tons of resources up there. So if you want to do an analysis of how much people in your company make, we've got a pay analysis methodology you can use. We've got surveys. We've got data on race in the service industry here in the United States, which is incredibly important. For instance, Black workers in retail make 75 cents on the dollar to white workers. Really important for us to know and understand that, and for companies to dig in and understand the differential impacts by race and gender. We've got a list of companies here in the US who've made a $15 or more wage commitment, which is really exciting. We've got videos, case studies, all sorts of stuff there. Really encourage you to explore it and see what else there is to learn about how good jobs can drive great customer service and great operational and financial performance in the hospitality industry. So, as we all know, travel is always worth it. Well, good jobs are also a journey. It's not easy, but it is so worth it. Financially, again, with that calculator, as I mentioned, there's so many ways that good jobs can boost the bottom line, increase revenue, reduce costs, improve labor productivity. Competitively, if you've got great jobs, low turn, people who are really ready to help you grow, you can be more adaptable to changing circumstances and really be more competitive for customers and for employees. And there's a really strong moral case for good jobs. Again, I think we've got people from all over the world on this call. I know here in the US, it's been really challenging to see how many people are hungry here in the US because they're out of work from COVID. Our society needs good jobs. And for businesses, you can provide great jobs and still have great operational performance. There's a real moral clarion call for better jobs. So happy to take any questions. If you're interested in learning more, again, check out our website. Feel free to email me. But I'm just really excited about good jobs because, again, I think it's a win-win-win for customers, for employees, and for investors. And I think that's pretty special. Happy to take any questions. If you want, you can put them in chat, or you can certainly raise your hand or just speak, whatever works. Great. Well, it looks like we may not have too many burning questions, which is totally fine. Oh, we might have one Q&A. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Have you found that American companies' cultures differ to that within Europe? Great question. Thank you for that. To be perfectly honest, we've mostly worked with US companies, some of which do have European stores or business units. And, I think the biggest difference is, well, there's lots of differences. I think one of them is the difference in sort of labor laws and benefits. So here in the US, I think, we've got a pretty low minimum wage. It's $7.25 an hour. We have fewer labor protections than Europe, basically, is what I'm saying. Employers are sort of on the hook for health insurance here. So when we worked with one retailer, it was much easier actually for them to apply some of these operational choices in their UK stores, because the UK already had stable schedules. They already had, a lot of labor protections. They had sort of national health insurance. So sometimes the investment, the upfront investment in good jobs can be less if you've got sort of stronger labor laws and you're already making those investments. So I don't know if that made any sense. Otherwise, I think these operational choices are applicable across, across sort of country boundaries. And you'll see that with Mercadona, who my colleague Zainab studied extensively. And there's a great case study on them, again, from Harvard. But I think the core of this is many business leaders we talk to, they want to offer better jobs, and operations is really one avenue to do that, no matter what country you're in. Awesome. Anybody have a really fantastic story of great customer service anywhere, any companies they recommend that we look at who you think are offering great jobs and fantastic customer service? Nope, well, that's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it up here. Again, please feel free to check out our website. And as you travel and enjoy the world, always, say hello and get to know those frontline workers. They're often the best resource to really get to know the world. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful night.